Welcome to Denver Theory Lab.
Denver Theory Lab? Okay.
Denver Theory Lab. Let's do it. Welcome to Denver Theory Lab, guys, for our live episode. Thanks for being here. We have a guest speaker tonight, Mr. Bryan Paris. How are you?
I'm doing quite well. How about you?
Good.
Good.
So we're sitting here at Karma House and want to definitely thank Karma House for letting us be here and host this event here. And want to throw out here in the beginning that any of the views expressed here on the podcast do not reflect the views of Karma House. Only the individuals stating the views. So, all right, we got a whole list of guests and fun topics for the night, and I think to get started, we've got George Van Tassel and the Integratron. Is that right, Bryan?
That is correct. Yep. Yeah. So I actually moved out here from the Mojave Desert. I was living in Joshua Tree, Yucca Valley area. Out in that area, there's a town called Landers. It was like one town over from mine. It's an unincorporated town that doesn't really have a mayor or any sort of like structure, but it's kind of piggybacking on Yucca Valley, which is also a very small town. So Landers is very tiny. And when you get out there, it's a whole lot of nothing. But if you get kind of further into the desert, there is this big giant rock there. And coincidentally enough, it's called Giant Rock. I think it's the largest freestanding boulder in all North America, I believe. Yeah, that's the Landers sign, like right when you get in there. And, people go out there and camp and shoot off fireworks and drink and smoke weed and stuff. But it has been revered as this kind of like spiritual place by a lot of the Native Americans out there. And the locals usually take pretty good care of this big giant rock because it's like a part of their neighborhood and their identity. That's it right there. We're looking at a giant rock with a piece falling off of it. That piece that fell off of it happened probably
early 2000s.
Yeah, is that what it was? Okay, Cool. Yeah, and I think it had a lot to do with people just making campfires under it, and it just kind of wore down the structure.
We mentioned that might be a possibility. It looks like there's a few campfires that were lit there.
Yeah, it's a really cool place, and you have to drive a little bit to get out there. But what's interesting about this rock is back in the early 40s, there was this dude that lived out there, and his last name was Kritzer, I believe.
Yeah, that was the German dude that...
Yeah, Frank Kritzer. He basically dug out like a basement apartment underneath that big gigantic rock, and he lived down there for a while, but this was the beginning of World War II, so a lot of the locals thought he was a spy for the Germans. And long story short, he kind of blew himself up down there because the feds came and tried to smoke him out and stuff, and he didn't want to come out, so he kind of blew himself up. And this place stayed kind of dormant for a little bit. So after his death, this gentleman named Van Tassel came out there, and he ended up leasing some land out there. And he brought his wife out there, and he was, I don't know if he was an aeronautical engineer, but he was definitely like an aeronautical enthusiast. And he used to hang out with like Howard Hughes. He hung out with the Learjet dude. Like he was very interested in aviation, kind of in that golden age of aviation. And then him and his wife moved out there and leased some land and built a little tiny airport. And they built a little cafe in it called the Come On In, and they sold like burgers and milkshakes and stuff like that. And George Van Tassel basically started one of the first like national UFO conventions that went on there for about I think it started in like the 50s and went to about the 70s, and people would come from all around to go to this UFO convention. And so he was also really interested in extraterrestrials and, you know, aliens and UFOs and all that. So he decided to, in that area, which he knew was like being kind of a sacred place from the Native Americans that lived out around there and whatnot, he built a structure out there called the Integratron. And the Integratron is this very unique building in a sense that it doesn't really have any metal screws or nails or anything in it. It's kind of held together by itself. And it's a dome. And it's this acoustically perfect tabernacle, essentially. So, like, they do sound baths in it now, and I'll get to that. But basically, when George Van Tassel built it, he built it near Giant Rock for that reason of kind of it being a spiritual place. And
Oh, wow.
he believed...
Looks cozy.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, he built it as a antenna to essentially speak to extraterrestrials. And he he used a lot of like the magnetism theories that like Tesla kind of pioneered. I don't know exactly which ones, but he built a lot on kind of his blueprints. And I think he died actually before the
Before you got to complete
Before
it.
the completion.
before he completed it.
Wasn't it kind of a suspicious death as well?
Yeah, so Kritzer's and Van Tassel's death were both suspicious. I mean, like, that's one of those things where, like, there's a lot of spooky stuff that goes on in the Mojave Desert, and there's a lot of stuff that goes unanswered. There's a lot of shallow graves out there. There's a lot of that kind of thing. So
He was apparently healthy
Yeah.
at the time of his death, very
Yeah.
healthy,
yeah,
or
totally.
reported to be at least, when he had a heart attack.
Yeah, and there's definitely suspected foul play, especially living there. He's kind of like this local celebrity that like everybody's really into this dude. And yeah, if you talk to anybody, they'll give you 10 different answers of like how this guy died and when he died and whatnot. So,
And maybe they were just being paranoid, or maybe the fact that the government agents ransacked his house and confiscated his belongings after his death, maybe that
yeah, that's a big
led
part
to
of it
the
too.
paranoia.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's definitely some cool old timers that you can meet out in the desert that like were kind of around, not that early, but kind of in the 70s when it shut down. But they all, the reason I found out about this place actually was there was this little dive bar in the desert that I would go to that's now a fancy restaurant. But back then it was this little dive bar. And they had a UFO night there. And it was like, yeah, a bunch of these like old timer desert dudes who would come in with like Xerox pictures of the night sky. And they're like, hey, can you see that in the background? It's like, well, not really, but I'm sure it's there, you know? Like, so that's kind of how I heard about Van Tassel, was through these old guys at the UFO nights that they'd have at this little dive bar out in the desert.
Well, Van Tassel's a very interesting contactee from, back in the right after the World War II era. There's lots of people who claim to have been contacted by UFOs, by extraterrestrials. Some of them have not so pleasant experiences that they tell, but he had a unique one where he claims the folks from Venus gave him instructions of how to build this structure.
Yeah, the Venusians were supposedly giving him blueprints and plans, and that was kind of initially why they built the Integratron, or why he built the Integratron, was to decipher messages. Yeah, I guess specifically from the Venusians, from Venus and whatnot. But yeah, it's that is a part of the story that I actually forgot about. Who are we looking at here?
Well, I think that's just someone inside the building more currently.
Yeah,
showing the copper wire.
That was
the
the Tesla wire, or the coil that he was using.
So in looking at the plaque that they put up on this building, what I find very interesting is the mixing of extraterrestrial, the mixing of modern alien, or things that make us think of modern aliens, and the mixing with things more ancient. What it says on the plaque is the Integratron is the creation of George Van Tassel and is based on the design of Moses' tabernacle. Mm-hmm. Moses' tabernacle. Yep. The writings of Nikola Tesla and telepathic directions from extraterrestrials.
Huh.
Yeah, that's kind of all part of. So what they use it for now is it's a sound bath. So you go in there and they kind of do give you a little bit of that history. And like I said before, I did refer to it as a tabernacle because it essentially is. And the way that sound bounces off of things in that building is really fascinating. You could be laying on like one side and then you'll hear somebody whispering on the other side of the room. So when you're laying on the floor and they have the sound bath, they rub these quartz bowls, and they're all different frequencies, and they all kind of resonate throughout your body, and it's a very like meditative experience. But yeah, they do kind of go into that before you get this sound bath. They do kind of go into that whole history of that as well. So it's I think now it's booked out like crazy, but when I went there about 15 years ago, and that's when I kind of learned about all this too. It's with the Integratron. I mean, I learned about giant rock at the UFO thing. But
Now, and you've gone and you've experienced a sound bath there.
yes, I have. Yeah.
And what did you, what did you think? Did you feel was there anything that would make you think it had a noticeable effect on you physically or in any other ways, energetically?
Yeah, kinda. Like after that happened, so basically you go in and you lay on the floor and they have a bunch of these like kind of cool like old like Mexican blankets that you lay on, and you essentially kind of go into this meditative mode, and it almost feels like the sound's kind of resonating within you, like it's not coming into your ears, it's almost coming out of your chest in a way. Which is something that I've never really experienced. It's one of the closest things I've experienced to like taking psilocybin without taking psilocybin.
I can concur that there's like a resonance that comes out of your body
Yeah.
while you're doing a sound bath. I did some yoga, and the instructor brought a bunch of bowls and did a sound bath at the end of the yoga, and it was almost like a different level of subconscious that you enter. And I don't know, it's one of the things I want to get back into, but it was pretty awesome.
That is, makes me want to come attend one of the sound baths they do here at Karma House. Another thing I find interesting here on the plaque, it says that the Integratron was designed for cell rejuvenation. So using the unique geometry of the building, it says it will concentrate and amplify the energy required for cell rejuvenation. So just the concept that the geometry of a building, and I'm assuming some of the materials, given that they have the Tesla wire and other things throughout there, this idea that just the geometry and shape of a building and the materials is built with alone, without the use of some external power like we're used to for our machines and our computers, could have the power to rejuvenate the human body. But that concept is there throughout human history. When you could even look at the Buddha, who supposedly went out into the wilderness and just meditated, no food or anything. Even in that story, there's this concept that somehow he was able to rejuvenate his body's energy.
Okay. Yeah, I hadn't heard that. I think that's kind of what a lot of the people who do the sound baths kind of play on, that concept with the quartz bowls as well. Yeah, I could definitely see that. Like I said, it's a kind of a weird experience to have while you're there. You're almost in kind of a translate state. So I could see that being almost kind of on the path to enlightenment or some sort of very deep meditative state. So.
Well, yeah, on the plaque, they at least describe it as, the Integratron is the rejuvenation. The purpose of the Integratron is the rejuvenation of the human body, similar to recharging a battery.
Yeah.
And so, just with that, it makes me think that the builders of it, or the design of it, is focused on a form of energy that maybe we're not totally aware of.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely the common consensus of a lot of the, like I said, a lot of the old timers that have been out in the hobby for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, Just looking at that rock online, I saw that the Native Americans, definitely thought it was a sacred spot, almost like an energy nexus.
Yes.
So, were there any other sort of, phenomena associated with that area? If it's an energy nexus, I know sometimes energy nexuses can be places where they see a lot of UFO activity.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of have a personal experience with that, if you don't mind me talking about it.
Oh, yeah, please do.
Yeah, okay. So
That's why you're here.
So the thing about the Mojave Desert and living out there, it does have one of the biggest like military bases out there. And you're right near Edwards Air Force Base and all that. So like there's all kinds of shit in the sky all the time that like you kind of don't know what it is. But what happened with me was interesting because I was bartending down in Palm Springs and I was coming home from work late one night. It was probably like, I don't know, 1:30 in the morning or something. And there's a stretch of desert that you have to drive through. So where that is, the Integratron, everything is in the high desert, which is like, I don't know, 3,000 feet above sea level. And where I was in the Coachella Valley, it's like all sea level. So you have to literally drive up a mountain to get home. And right before you hit that mountain, there's just a lot of desert that you just drive through. There's nothing on either side of you. And so I ended up one night coming home from work around 1:30 in the morning, and I had this weird, like, green light in my car. Like, so basically it was kind of like when you get pulled over by the cops and there's like the red lights flashing like within your car. It was like that, but it was a green light. And immediately, just from all the X-Files episodes I've watched, I looked at the clock on my car and see if I was like lost any time and whatnot. But this light just kind of stayed in my car. And the more I drove, and then I went around a curve and the light stayed in my car. So like, I don't know a lot about that kind of stuff, but I know light doesn't really bend. And so it was something either had to be following me or, I don't know if it was like a drone. I don't think it was like a laser pointer or anything like that.
And was the light shining on your hood? Could you see the light on the exterior
It was
of
like
your
shining.
car?
It was like in my car, shining out of my car, essentially.
So it appeared as if the light was coming from in the car.
Yeah, essentially, yes.
And could you see anything up above or
No,
anything like that?
I just gassed it, and I I ended up going real fast out of there. I didn't want to know what it was,
Get the hell
and
out
then
of there.
then I looked at my clock again and realized I didn't lose any time. So I figured I wasn't abducted yet. So
All right.
yeah,
No trackers in you yet.
not
right?
yet. Well, as far as I know.
Just probing.
Yeah. Well, we could only hope.
So, I wonder, being that Mr. Van Tassel never got to live to see this completed, I wonder if it was actually completed fully to the specifications that he laid out, or, was that is the design incomplete?
The design, as far as I know, is incomplete. And they talk about that before you go in for a sound bath, because it lay dormant from like the 70s up until I think the early 2000s or something like that. I don't remember the exact date, but it wasn't like a thing for a while. And there's all kinds of lore of okay, did the government come in and shut this thing down?
Why do they say it's incomplete? Did they have plans for him, or
it's supposed to?
Does it not do everything that they expected to do?
Yeah,
or?
I mean, Van Tassel was a little out there. He was trying to,
The plaque has,
time travel and speak to extraterrestrials.
Okay, so
and
you
whatnot,
can't time travel with the Integratron, but
I guess not.
so it's incomplete.
Yeah, but I don't know exactly. I don't remember why. There's some reason that it's incomplete. Well, it's because he died, but there's a lot of lore behind it of how he died and why he died. Kind of like you were saying, if there was government intervention, everybody kept that hush hush.
Yeah, his stated purposes for it before he died was it was a time machine,
Yes.
and I'm quoting this, for basic research on rejuvenation, anti-gravity, and time travel. The domed wood structure has a rotating metal apparatus on the outside he called an electrostatic dierod, and Van Tassel claimed it was made of non-ferromagnetic materials, wood, concrete, glass, and fiberglass, lacking even metal screws or nails.
Yeah.
And the Integratron was never fully completed due to his sudden death weeks before the official opening. So, it's lacking even screws or nails.
Well, I wonder if that has to do with the intentional magnetic field nearby.
It probably does. I
Right.
mean, it's just an impressive building in general.
You
It's
don't want
like-
to alter the flow of the magnetic field.
Right. And I wonder if that's why in some of the, the other, in ancient sites we see that were supposedly built from, direction of, based on the direction of non-humans. Is that why our these wondrous ancient constructions didn't use metal? Would metal have messed up the...
Well, the Amish don't use nails.
Oh, for real?
Really?
No, they cut pieces of wood and fit them together, and there you go.
I did not know the nail was
I didn't know that
outside of
either.
the Amish use. I thought they just didn't want electronics.
No, it's just the way they've always built it.
Is it
And
because the
I
nail-
don't think it's because it's technology,
But getting the nail would require them to engage
the-
with society, probably.
I think it's because the nail eventually fails and the wood will shrink and expand
That's true, yeah.
due to the atmosphere. So if you bind it together in a strictly wood joint and possibly use a wooden peg in between to join the two, then that fastener will also bend and flex with the weather and atmosphere.
So ultimately,
So
using
ultimately,
nails
it's
is
just a
short-term,
better structure. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of ancient Japanese structure does the same thing.
Yeah, that's true.
made to fit together. So ultimately, our modern construction with all our nails and screws
They're
is
lazy.
it's lazy and short-term thinking.
Yeah.
Can't time travel with that. Yeah.
Let's see. And let's see, who dedicated this plaque? Dedicated May 1st, 2005, by the Billy Holcomb chapter of the Ancient and Honorable Order of E. Clampus Vitus in cooperation with Morono Basin Historical Society.
Yeah, the Morongo Basin Historical Society is in Morongo, which is like the town over from Yucca Valley, and that's where they have a lot of, like, I guess you want to call them museums. They're very small, but there's a lot of conservation of like wilderness stuff down there, and the Morongo Basin. That whole group of people try to keep things the way that they are in the desert, essentially. So I could see that being a thing, definitely.
And looking at Giant Rock, even though it, to me it looks pretty clear that it probably broke because people had been burning campfires on that side of the rock for a long time.
Yeah.
There was a good bit I could find online where people claimed that the rocks breaking in early 2000 was symbolic of a shifting of the ages, if you will, humanity entering a new age.
Cool.
So, and hey, maybe it's both.
Yeah.
Maybe all the force from all the heat and everything from all those campfires finally built up until just enough to break it right on time for the world to start to change.
Exactly. Yeah, my friend actually used to throw shows out there. He had like generators set up to, soundboards and, amps and speakers and monitors and stuff. And
What kind of music was it?
this was like really like kind of drony, kind of doom.
Stoner rock?
Doom. Yeah, like what you would think.
Stoner metal?
Yeah, what you would think the
Grind
desert
metal, I
Yeah,
guess?
like doom stoner desert metal kind of.
Yeah.
But it was a good place to go see that type of music play.
Now, and what the original guy who was out there, who built his little house underneath it,
Kritzer.
what's
Kritzer.
Kritzer's deal? Why were they the police after him? It says he died in a dynamite explosion in
Yeah.
his underground rooms while being investigated by the police.
So that was another shady thing that happened. There's debate whether he blew himself up or the
Sure.
the feds came in and did it.
Air quotes. He blew himself
Yeah, right,
up.
exactly. Yeah. But he, I think he was either just like a prospector or he was, I don't know if he's like looking for, like prospecting for gold or just trying to be left alone or something. But since he was a German immigrant, like the U.S. government was like watching him like a hawk because this was like, I don't know, like 1942 or something like that. So, it was definitely another questionable death surrounding that area of the desert.
So
Oh, yeah.
he built the apartment underneath. Did you go in?
No, it's not there anymore. It's been filled in.
What do you mean it's not there anymore? You don't just move an apartment under the rock.
I think they filled it in. Like,
With concrete? They just filled it in?
maybe just like earth, because like many times that I've been there, I have never seen any sort of entryway underneath it, or
Well, I saw pictures. There was just a basic screen door
Yeah, that was like with the black and white ones.
Steps that would
Yeah.
take you down to the apartment.
Yeah, I think after that guy got like blown up or whatever, I think they kind of filled it in, unless like there's an entryway that I don't know about. But,
I mean, this guy Van Tassel lived one heck of a life. He gets out there, leases this land from the BLM, Bureau of Land Management.
Yep.
And then he builds an airport.
Yeah.
You know, and who just builds an airport and gets it running? You know, I would say he must have had some pretty decent connections. And for the time period in the 1950s, of course, I wasn't alive back then, so I'm basing this on my perception. But I would imagine holding weekly Friday night meditation sessions where you're trying to contact other beings. Wasn't I would imagine that was probably frowned upon by polite society back then.
Yeah, in the 1950s, sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's interesting because so he's a far out dude. Like if there's a mountain right near it called Goat Mountain, and if you get to the top of it, it's not like a huge mountain. It's just kind of like a little hike up this big hill. But you could look down and actually see where that airport runway was back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you're right. He was like a dude that like not a lot of people were really into the idea of like, you know, trying to talk to aliens and, you know, I think I read somewhere that runway was also built as like a welcoming like mat for UFOs to land on, essentially.
Yeah.
And that's why he was kind of like doing the whole like field of dreams. If you build it, they will come kind of thing.
Well, you know, it seems like people took interest in them. If you're that sort of eccentric type in the 50s where you're holding weekly meditation sessions to contact other beings, building an airport that the FAA gives you the okay for.
Yeah.
And it looks like they had about one flight per day, and they were watching them close enough that very shortly after his death, they were able to move in and take everything. So I wonder if they were letting them get right to the finish line before they decided enough.
Or he was getting close and he was getting too close. That could be it too.
Well, that sort of gives me what I'd love to segue into our next topic, which is a little bit about extraterrestrials. And unless we get more, we can kind of dive on this.
Why don't you go ahead with that? I mean, Bryan, you're welcome to sit up and converse with us while we do.
Yeah. Okay. So earlier this week, this caught my attention. There was a member of Congress. Let me get back to her from out of Florida, Representative Anna Paulina Luna, out of Florida, made her way onto the Joe Rogan podcast and talked at length about saying that lawmakers have been shown evidence of interdimensional beings. You know, one disappointing thing listening to her is they come out and they say this to us. They never really show us anything to go off of. They just come out and say, "Hey, we've seen it. Take our word for it." And, you know, can you show us a spaceship? Can you show us anything? If you can tell us, you would think you could show us. But what I really find interesting about this, and this is how, you know, sort of segues into what George Van Tassel was doing out there at Giant Rock, is that she talked about interdimensional beings. And typically when people talk about non-human intelligence, aliens, or anything like that, it's always sort of in a Star Wars, Star Trek-y sort of way or concept, where we think about them as just being somewhere far away, that if we could just travel far enough and fast enough, we could get there, and that's the only thing stopping us.
Three-dimensional barrier is the interdimensional being
Right.
lives beyond 4 and 5 dimensions. Yeah,
And if we're talking about an interdimensional being, if it's come from another dimension, theoretically we don't need to travel anywhere at all. We could stay right here. And it seems like what Mr. Van Tassel was doing, he claims to have contacted other beings through meditation.
Yeah.
You know, and what Representative Luna talked about at length is what the implications of evidence of interdimensional beings has for us as a society, and what those implications mean for everything our ancestors told us about their contact with interdimensional beings. And, is this something we should celebrate? Should we take caution? Or is this something to, raise alarm that interdimensional beings are potentially interacting with world governments?
I think it's already happened. I mean, we've said expressly many a times that everything we see on the news is what they want us to see. So it's something that's already happened. And I think it's been happening for long before our society ever established power, really. And I think we're visiting in their realm rather than them coming to visit us.
Ooh, yeah, I like that. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of like it goes back to like kind of like Giant Rock or even like Skinwalker Ranch and places like that, where it's like there's been like generations of like Native American people have just been like, don't go near that. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, the older I get, the more susceptible I am to like, not susceptible, but the more I'm willing to like entertain the idea of like, if some native culture that's been living here for hundreds of years, like tells you not to go up to that mountain, you probably should listen to them. You know what I mean? Like
there might be something to it.
Whether it's like we're crossing paths with some kind of multiverse temporarily, there's frequencies lining up. I have no idea, but you know what I mean? Like it's one of those places where I think that might have been what kind of drew Van Tassel to that area as well, is because it was this spiritual area for a long, long time. So
well, and if we look back at history, that's these natural thresholds, spots like this, the Giant Rock are important caves, mountaintops, rivers, sacred groves,
yeah,
and a lot of cultures that has been throughout history just one of the ways in people report having contact with non-human entities in these special spots, and looking at America, most of these special natural spots are government controlled. They're national parks, national forests, and those spots are known for having strange occurrences and people going missing. I think isn't it so that most of the people who go missing in the U.S. go missing near a national park?
Yeah, a lot of times.
Yeah, there's probably a much greater reason than conservation as to why these national parks are named national parks.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, going right along with what Representative Luna was talking about, I just did more digging and trying to see, hey, if our government is in contact with these things. Representative Luna says she's never seen a portal or a spaceship, but she says she's seen documentation that proves to her that these interdimensional beings do exist. And we already know from declassified programs that the government has invested in things like remote viewing.
Mm-hmm.
So in the exact thing George Van Tassel was out there doing, holding his meditation sessions, the government has invested money in doing, and supposedly they did that about 20, 30 years after Van Tassel. If he's there in the 50s, and the declassified program say we started our program in the 80s to go after the Russians, but looks like they had their eye on this already if they were watching Van Tassel and taking him seriously.
Oh yeah, I think so. I mean, you start messing around with aviation, aeronautical engineering, and you get a guy that is that far out. Like, I think the government's going to raise an eyebrow, definitely, to somebody like that.
Just for the sake of imagination and exploring fun ideas. If we look back at history, past cultures we have lots of stories. We have a multitude of stories. Most of them we call mythology, but we have all these stories from our ancestors telling us about their reported interactions with interdimensional beings. So, I did a little deep dive just trying to figure out, hey, what do our ancestors say about these interactions? What is the purpose these interdimensional beings seem to have in historical accounts of interacting with humans? And I was able to narrow it down to 5 basic categories of 1, bring knowledge, 2, test humanity, 3, mate with humans, 4, guide souls, or 5, to wage wars, essentially as if their own conflicts spilling over into our realm. But with all of this, I want to definitely specify that, like, when we think about it in the context of an interdimensional being versus just a physical alien, I think it just so drastically changes the viewpoint of what purpose these things might have in interacting with us. Because, we can watch Independence Day, the movie, and think, okay, alien invasion, the ships show up, it's a physical invasion. But then when you start thinking about interdimensional beings, then are we talking about something more like Stranger Things?
Mm-hmm.
Or are we dealing with something,
Stargate or something like that?
Yeah, are we dealing with something even more,
The multiverse.
Sometimes I think we have our default is to think of things on a purely physical standpoint, because we are physical beings, and what we can see and feel is physical. But if these other beings from another dimension have senses beyond our own, maybe there's this other form of energy that, like the Integratron, is recharging people in some form of energy that we're not totally aware of. Maybe these other beings are interested in that energy.
Yeah, I like kind of piggybacking on what Jess said. Is like maybe we're the one living in their realm. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
You never know. Like, yeah, like, that goes into the whole thing of, like you were saying, with like multiverse. I mean, it's been like mathematically proven that there's like infinite amounts of multiverses. So it's kind of like, that's why I'll go kind of in that direction with that kind of thing, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whether like I said, if things mesh up, or I have no idea how any of that works, but I don't know. It's an interesting thought experiment.
Yeah, and this one thing the term just makes me think Bible, but I couldn't tell you what a tabernacle is. So the Integratron is supposedly partially modeled after the tabernacle of Moses. Mm-hmm. So what is the tabernacle? What would that even be?
It's essentially like a place of worship where you can.
So a temple like design.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Okay, the tabernacle of Moses, also known as the Mishkan, was a portable sanctuary in the form of a tent designed to house God's presence among the Israelites.
Okay.
So, and if the purpose of this way back then was to recharge an individual, it would make sense why you would want to even build it.
And yeah, I guess you can also kind of look at that picture, and it is kind of like a dome-like structure as well. Like, it's almost like it looks like something sound could bounce off of, definitely.
Yeah, I would imagine they, with sound in mind. In a past episode, that's exactly what we were putting a big focus on, was how much focus on sound and acoustics seem to be in these ancient buildings. And with anybody who seems to do anything with aliens, it always, or not, if not aliens, non-human intelligence, the shape and acoustic design of a building seems to play a really big role.
Totally.
Okay. Well, let's see. Before we go too far there, do we have another guest ready?
Yeah, we do have Gunnar ready to come up, it looks like. Thank you, Bryan, for joining us.
Yeah, no problem.
We
Thanks for having me.
appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey guys, you can make donations now to support our podcast on PayPal at Denver Theory Lab. Okay. Well, guys, thanks for listening. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, or you can email us at denvertheorylab@gmail.com. Give us questions, comments, suggestions. If you want to disprove any of our theories or talk smack, feel free to message us at denvertheorylab@gmail.com.
Send us cool stuff to look into.